now in year number 4. It's a Yank on the Footy with Craig Wessels. Let's all sit back and enjoy a chat about the greatest game on the face of the earth. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 242 of A Yank on the Footy. If this is your first time tuning in, I am so glad that you are joining us for the podcast. I'm Craig Wessels, coming to you from Sandusky, Ohio, and a little quick background about myself. I am a lifelong Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Indians, now Guardians fan, but in 2016 I fell in love with Australian rules football, and over the last several years I've become more and more disgruntled with what Major League Baseball is doing to the game that I love, and I'm so thankful that footy has fit nicely in that spot. So what I'm doing with these episodes here, and this can be about a half dozen of them, and I have come out over the next week and a half or so, is talk to American fans of Australian rules football, along with talking with Australian NFL and Australian rules football fans on why this is a game that, quite frankly, my thesis is that American NFL fans, if they discovered footy, they would love footy because it has so many components to what makes the NFL a great visual game. Those components are in Australian football: speed, endurance, great catches, just dynamic quickness, and we're going to get into that in these discussions with these different people that I'm talking to, and I want to encourage you to check out this game, and there are opportunities to do that here in the United States without having to make any sort of a major investment. Fortunately for us, and I will link to this website, it is afana.com, AFANA.com, and it is the Australian Football Association of North America. And this is an organization that does a great deal of work on reporting on the game, and they do a great job with that. But for many folks, one of the most important things that they do is keep track of the schedule of televised games here in the United States. Now, we get most of the games of the AFL on television here during the season. And most of those games are carried on either FS1 or FS2, and the remainder are typically on the Fox Soccer Plus add-on package, which I think many people have. If you're a soccer fan, you're going to find it there. But what is interesting about this game is that you have to go into it realizing that, well, they're quite often played in the middle of the night, especially if you live on the East Coast of the United States like I do, or at least in the Eastern time zone. We have games that will start anywhere between 11 o'clock at night and 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, I have a club that I support, and if you're somebody who becomes interested in footy, I am not somebody who wants to influence you and tell you what club you need to support. You certainly can, if you get into the game, you can do your own investigating. It took me about a year before I decided upon which club I wanted to support, and I wholeheartedly support them. And the thing that I love about footy is it has so many different aspects of different games. And I describe it as a combination or an amalgamation of a number of different games. Gridiron football, the NFL, college football, if you will. It tends to get differentiated when talking about the different types of football. It gets referred to as gridiron football quite a bit in Australia. It has components of gridiron football, of rugby, of basketball, of volleyball, of soccer, a lot of soccer, cross-country running. And the other two that I mention are mixed martial arts and also calculus, because it is a 360 game And the game, for all intents and purposes, does not stop until a quarter ends. Now, there are stoppages where there are what they call a ball up or a jump ball that takes place throughout different times of the game. But the clock typically continues to run. And it's just a dynamic game. And the ground they play on is absolutely massive. And I'm going to be including links to a number of different YouTube videos for you to take a peek at if you are interested in doing so. And one of the early videos, it shows you the size of the ground. And first of all, it's an oval-shaped ground. So it's not rectangular, it's not square, it's an oval. And from end to end, it's an average of around 180 meters. So we're talking about 185, 190 yards, almost twice the length of an NFL field. And at the midpoint, it is roughly 150 meters wide. So almost 3 times as wide as an NFL field. Okay, and it's absolutely massive. All right. So I do hope that you'll continue or consider checking it out, because I like I said, I've fallen in love with this game. I still watch the Browns play on Sundays because I'm a glutton for punishment. Someday, somehow, it's going to work out for us. I'll watch Ohio State play. I'll watch the Naval Academy play. I'm a Navy veteran. I have a son who's a naval officer. But I generally don't watch a lot of other NFL anymore because I never have watched a lot of it. Baseball was always my first love, and I am very frustrated with what's going on with Major League Baseball right now. I'm very sad with what is happening to the game that I love. And I worry for the longevity and the health of this game, because I think they're trying to cut the corners on it and turn it into a timed game. And to me, that's just not what it is. So I'm so thankful that I fell in love with Australian rules football back in 2016. And the great thing about it is that the season runs from mid-March until the end of September. So if you're somebody who happens to be a little frustrated with baseball, or you've never been a baseball fan, and you love the NFL, and you love college football, and you want that kind of action and a little bit different, then I think Australian rules football is something you might absolutely want to check out. I really do think you'll want to check it out. Now, I'm going to be joined here in just a moment by an Australian sports writer. He writes for the AFL and the NFL, and he works for the Inner Sanctum in Australia, as well as Sports Illustrated, and he writes predominantly about the Port Adelaide Power, which are one of the AFL clubs, as well as the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm going to be sitting down with Adam Schultz, and we're going to discuss how it is that we can go about growing interest for the AFL here in the United States. Now, I should have mentioned, as I said, those games tend to be on late at night. Now, if you're somebody who's a novice to it and you're just getting into it, you're probably not going to stay up and watch the games live like I do. You know, my team will play a game at 2:30 in the morning. I'm up at 2:30 in the morning with a pot of coffee watching the game because that's when my club's playing. Now, you may start out, if you become a fan of this game, you may start out, hitting the DVR button and recording these and coming back later on to watch them. And that's perfectly okay. I mean, I do watch several of the games on demand. I have an international membership for my club, which gives me access to what is known as the Watch AFL app, which is basically the AFL's version of the Sunday Ticket or the MLB TV, if you will, where you get all of the games live or on demand, and then all of the programming that goes along with the Fox Footy channel. So it's a great deal. It runs about $120 for the year, and you can go back and watch games all the way back to 2017 on there. And they have a bunch of different programs that they have on there, along with classic games. So, and every episode I do of the podcast, I give a shout out to a local footy club. And today's club of the episode are the Happy Valley Vikings of the Southern Football League in South Australia. And the club was founded back in 1952 and originally wearing the blue and gold. They transitioned to black and gold when they left the Hills Central League. They're now in the Southern League, and they're in the black and gold now. Now, they've got many teams, both men's and women's, down to the youth levels as well. And their junior football teams, those youth teams, are getting ready to start training in late March, the 22nd of March, their training sessions begin. Now, this is a club that has had a storied history of some really, really good players that have gone on to play in the AFL, including Ben Rutten, who played 229 games for Adelaide, was just let go as Essendon's senior coach this past offseason. Nathan Eagleton, who played 277 games between the Bulldogs and Port Adelaide. Jason Porplesia, who played 130 games with Adelaide. Bo Waters, who played 120 games with West Coast, and Matt Rogers, who played 197 games with Richmond. So this is a club that has had a strong history of producing really good athletes to move on to the highest level of the game. So that's typically how I would introduce an episode. And let's go ahead and jump into my chat with Adam Schultz. And we're going to talk about how it is that we can garner interest in the AFL here in the United States. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my guest this episode is a writer writing about Port Adelaide Power for the Inner Sanctum, as well as the Dallas Cowboys for Sports Illustrated. And I did see that he just had a new article that came out today about Frank Reich getting the job with the Carolina Panthers. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Adam Schultz. Welcome, sir. Thanks for coming on today.
Hi, Craig. Thank you, mate. Pleasure to be on.
You bet. Love the port hat you got there. It is a great looking logo. I've had discussions with folks. I'm a Cat supporter, as you can see behind me here. But I said, if I'm trying, we're here to talk about how to grow the game here in the United States. And I've asked people. I said, is it okay if you're simply trying to promote the game if you're able to find polo shirts from the different clubs at a cheap price? Is it wrong if I'm a Cat supporter, if I was to show up at work, wearing a Port Adelaide polo shirt or a West Coast Eagles shirt, where people are wondering, well, who are they? And then you get that conversation going. I've had a lot of purists who are saying, no, you can't wear another club's polo shirt or anything like that. And I was like,
no.
I get it, but
Yeah, I guess it just depends how deep lying your loyalties are.
Right.
My mother was the classic, I support Essendon, I support Collingwood, I like Adelaide. I'm like, Mum, it's one team, pick one, choose it, stick with it.
So I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago because we're working on this series about trying to grow the AFL in the United States, because as we talked about off air, I said, I call this game the greatest game on the planet. Even to me, even more so than the NFL. But it's one that most Americans might have heard of. Maybe they've seen a somebody reacting to some aspect of the game on YouTube, but they really don't know the game. So wanting to talk about how can we go about encouraging more Americans to check out this game? Because I've said that if we can get 1% of the United States interested in footy, that would be a huge economic boom for the game, if at all possible.
Yeah, I think, as we talked before, is that one of the parallels that NFL fans could transition to AFL is just the physicality of it. Like with the NFL, there's nothing better than when, as Kyle Brandt calls an angry run, that physicality of someone bursting through the offensive line. Is that kind of physicality you'll see 2 or 3 times a game, maybe if you're lucky, depending who the back is. But whereas with the AFL is that's almost every play, every second, every 10 seconds. So at the end of the day, it depends what the fans like. Like Pat McAfee, I think he came down to Melbourne, I think a couple of years ago, and was working with the Collingwood Football Club. Mm-hmm. And I think that done a good to promote the games then, but I think fans just need to find what they like. Whether it's the high flying marks, do they like the quick ball movement, or are they more analytical? Do they like the strategies that the coaches are putting in place, such and such like that? But if I was to say to one of my US friends, they asked me why should I start watching AFL, it would be physicality, it would be high flying marks, and it would just the entertainment. And the other thing is that with the NFL, is that the games go for 4.5, 5 hours, and you'd probably say
Yeah, maybe not quite that long, but with halftime and stuff in there, yeah. But they're pretty lengthy, yeah.
Yeah, but the one thing that I find from a lot of my friends here, the problem they have with the NFL is that there's a lot of ads, and I've had a lot of my US followers tell me the same thing: is that the game's just too long. It's like, well, AFL, if you get, depending what subscription obviously you have, they have no ads from siren to siren.
Right.
So you're not breaking your view. Your mind's not switched off. It's the full quarter, whether it be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever.
Right.
So my biggest thing would just be the physicality and the high marking and the wow moments.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. And I was talking to you, off air about the player that kind of pushed me into becoming a Cat supporter was a young man by the name of Nakia Kakatu, and he's people know his name, but he's not certainly somebody who's getting a lot of games now with Brisbane. But he had a game back in 2017 where he just absolutely decleated somebody in the pocket and just took him right up against the advertising signs. I mean, just lifted him up and turned him into a comma, and just planted him up against the fence. And it just was, I was like, wow, that's what I watch in college football and in the NFL. That was what pushed me there.
Yeah. See, I had a similar moment. Like I said, I've loosely started following the NFL in 2014. I can't remember what game it was. I know it was for the Cowboys. They were playing the Colts. I think it might have been a Monday night. And Des Bryant was on an option, and the ball was pitched to him, and no one knew that he was left-handed. And he's thrown a left-handed 20-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. Someone will have to jog my memory about who caught it. But that moment there, I was like, whoa, okay, 88. I like you. What team do you play for? Cowboys. Okay, right.
There you go.
Let's roll.
There you go. So it's have you brought other, with you writing for Sports Illustrated, are you right? And I guess I don't know the answer to this, but are you writing for Sports Illustrated here in the United States or for Sports Illustrated Australia?
So I work for what's called Fan Nation. Okay. And Mike, I'm not sure if you know him, but Mike Fisher runs the Cowboys side of it. It's a Sports Illustrated project.
Okay.
So we say it's Fan Nation powered by Sports Illustrated. So I'm writing from Australia here. So the time differences for me actually work quite well. On the Sunday for you, Monday for me, games start anywhere from before daylight savings, 2:30 in the morning. They start at 4:30 once daylight savings kicks in. So the time difference for me is good, because for the other sites that I write for, by the time their day's finished and they've covered what they need to cover, then I come on late afternoon and then pick up from there. So it's almost like a full circle kind of thing.
Okay. So who would you say, well, I don't know if I want to make the comparison, but we'll go ahead and toss it. Who would you say are overall better athletes, NFL players or AFL players?
It depends on what you look for in an athlete. I would imagine that strength-wise, NFL players, depending on position, would clear AFL players in street shoes. Whether that's like a defensive tackle or someone like a Bobby Wagner, a linebacker.
Right.
Agility-wise, again, depending what the position is, aerobically, it would be AFL players without a doubt, because obviously the NFL is one play, stop, 30 seconds, one play, stop, 30 seconds, unless you're in a hurry-up offense. But, it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for pure strength, it would be the NFL and possibly power as well. And then as far as maybe quickness, athleticism, aerobic ability, it would be the AFL. But like I said, it would depend on what you want in an athlete.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's almost like who's your favorite player and why? Well, it depends. Like your favorite player could be someone different to me, even though they're both the same player, but your player might have different attributes to what mine does. So it would all be about choice, I would say.
That's a good point. So have you brought other, you're right, you're doing the writing here. Do you have watch parties, or is this, or is it the middle of the night and you're watching the game all on your own, kind of like I'm usually doing? Because I've been watching the game, like I said, since 2016. I've never had anybody here watching a game with me. I watch by myself, and I'll be on a little discussion board or something on social media talking to somebody, in Geelong or wherever about the game, but never anybody here.
See, I'm the same. I have to watch it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like any distractions, especially with a 5-year-old son. That's a bit hard at times, but whether it's watching Port or the Cowboys but pretty much any sport, I like to be whether it be for the 2 hours of an AFL game, or like we discussed before, 3-4 hours for an NFL game.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to have no distractions.
Okay.
Obviously, that's not it's not feasible all the time, but yeah, I would prefer to be by myself. I think that just for me anyway, that's it's better.
Now, are you taking notes while you're watching, or are you,
So with the Cowboys, I am usually, yeah.
Okay.
And I write for Sportskeeda as well, and they're just kind of a more blanket type of coverage, whereas I get to actually fully focus on the intricacies of Dallas, what they're doing, and get a bit more knowledge of the team.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So it's if you were, let me ask you this. What do you think it would be the easiest thing for American fans to grasp about AFL, and what do you think would be the most difficult things for them to grasp and get an understanding of?
The most difficult, I would say, would be the rules, because even now, and I've been watching Footy or AFL for 20 odd years, even the rules sometimes even baffle me.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who watches it every week and watches most games every week.
Right.
So as far as what could hinder US followers, it could be the rules, but what could be easier for them, maybe like the scoring system, 6 points for a goal, a point for a behind, and then probably just the skills, just kick, mark, handball, kick, mark, handball. But then again, it depends on what that US fan is looking for. If they're more of an analytical mind when they watch the NFL, then that's not going to transfer to the AFL, because it's a completely different game, completely different set of rules.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. It's
so,
and I've spoken to people who do stats somebody who did the stats for the Roos for many, many years. And it is such a statistically intensive game. And I've watched a couple of videos of the groups that are doing the stats during the game live, and it's almost like they are. And I talked to somebody just recently who said that their family were showies, wasn't carnival people, they were showies. It's almost like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they called them, we call them here like the carny barker, the person that's but that, somebody like that, or an auctioneer almost. It's that the person that's reading the stats, they're reading it into a mic and they're reciting into the mic as it's going on, and it's so intensive, that as they go through all of that, it's an impressive skill, but it certainly doesn't really let you enjoy the game in the present. You might get to go back and watch it afterwards and go, "Oh, that's what happened. Okay, I didn't pick up on that." Yeah, it's
Well, see, I find stats can be so misleading. Is that where obviously the last couple of years, the analytical side for both the NFL and AFL has just gone through the roof. Obviously, there's a market for it.
Right.
But if someone has, speaking for AFL, someone has 30%, like you just look at the stat sheet and Patrick Dangerfield has 30 touches, you would immediately think, oh, he's had a good game.
Right.
But then if you delve further or you watch the game, out of those 30 possessions, 8 or 9 could be chip kicks in the back line. When time's running down. So instead of having 30 decent possessions, that's now down to 21, 22.
Exactly,
and then out of the 21, 6 of them could be kicks backwards. That's why one stat I like is meters gained. Usually for the half backs. is because if their meters gained is 650, that means they're putting their team in good field position.
That makes great.
You know, so
and one of the other stats that I because one of the things I've been doing during the preview episodes is asking some trivia questions of the people that I have on, and one of the stats that I've started to figure out is the one percenters, which I think is a really cool statistics. It's really cool stat. It's as I was telling him, I said you can almost call it the doing the right thing statistic.
Yes.
It you could almost call it that, but I like the one percenter kind of a thing. It almost has like that motorcycle gang, theme to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a neat stat, and it
tells you a lot about the team's personality and their mindset in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It more often than not, a team that does more one percenters has a better chance of winning that game. Whether that be smothering, whether that be always being next to your opponent, obviously depending where you're playing, or if that's being like some one percenters don't show up on the stat sheet. So if you're a halfback, or for example, a Lear, some of the stuff that he does don't show up on the stat sheet. So he might be loose in the back line and he'll have to, say, for example, mark the centre half forward, but then he's also got one eye on the full forward and he's positioned himself
in between
15, 20 metres, but goal side.
Right.
So when the team goes to enter 50, because he's stuck to the team structure, he's doing his job, that quote-unquote one percenter, then that's forcing the team to go through another avenue. So then that's an important one percenter as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Have you, following the NFL now as closely as you do, have you ever had the opportunity to, and I don't know with the NFL package that you have, do you get the opportunity to watch the game like through what they call the coach's camera, where you get like the all 22?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a whole different way to watch a game.
Yeah.
It's something that it's something that I thought would be an interesting component if they were able, and I would love to watch that camera angle, not ever having been to a game in Australia before. It'd be great to be able to watch an AFL game from that vantage point on television, so I could see the game, how it flows and how they widen as they head up the ground, or as they're moving to the different pockets and that type of thing. I think it would be a real interesting way to look at it. And I think also that would be something it would appeal to NFL fans as well, because so many of them have like the NFL Sunday ticket package where they get the all 22 camera the next day. And a lot of people go back and watch the games again from that angle, because they're picking out, well, my offensive tackle, didn't do what he needed to do on this play, and my quarterback got blown up, or whatever the case may be. But being able to see that from footy might give them an even greater appreciation of this game. It's just a unique angle, I think.
Yeah, definitely. David King for Fox Footy, for some reason he cops a lot of flack for being over analytical. But when he does his segment on AFL 360 from behind the goals and shows how especially Richmond, when they were really, 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 they're still good now, but not what they were a couple of years ago.
Right.
But how their defense sets up. So from Dylan Grimes at fullback, whether they're trying to blanket one side of the field or the other side of the field, how the other team, for example, how Port is moving the ball will dictate where their structures shift. So if Port are coming out from Richmond's forward 50 and they're trying to get to the wing, then from the behind the goals angle that you mentioned is that David King will illustrate the 6 or 7 defenders and they'll all slide to one side to block off that side, forcing either a dump kick to the other side or a dump to a contested situation, which 9 times out of 10, ball goes over the line, and then you reset. And then from that reset, he'll then indicate where the players are going, why they're going there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then based on their position, by the time the ball comes in, and if it's a quick hat kick, then Richmond's structure is so good, they've got 2 or 3 behind the ball. But then also because of how their line's set up from AFL terms, from the spine, is that they'll have 2 or 3 players on the outside ready to bounce out, and then they're away. That's why Richmond was so good for so long. It's because their system was almost foolproof, regardless of what teams threw at them. They were able to be at the top of their game, and that's where that behind the goals footage is so good. Much like you said with the NFL, if an offensive tackle he misses his step or the tight end doesn't get a chip block, and allows an edge rusher to come through, that's where you're going to get really good vision of that.
Yeah, and I do love watching him on there, because you're right, and he's somebody who really has been beneficial to somebody like me learning the game over the last few years, and trying to learn the strategic aspects of it. It's he doesn't I don't feel like he's and again, he's not talking to me specifically, but I don't feel like he's talking down to me at all. It's
exactly.
He's putting it in layman's terms. It's not like, okay, this is how it was, and you should know this already, that sort of thing. I think he does a fantastic job with it. But if you were to if an American was saying, okay, I'll pick out a game for me to watch to just kind of whet my appetite, is there a game that you can think of that's happened in the past, like one specific game where you would say, okay, this is the one you should watch to kind of just dangle the hook with the worm on it in front of the fish to see if they're going to take a bite of it?
Okay, so I'll be really biased here, and if you have any Port Adelaide listeners, they're going to absolutely love this. The elimination final against Richmond. So I'm pretty sure from memory that was 2014 Adelaide Oval. Port wore the famous prison bars, and it was from the first, obviously, Trent Conchin got a lot of flack. I think he kicked into the wind to start with, so he gave Port the wind at home in the first quarter. And from the first bounce, it was an obliteration, really. It was fast ball movement. It was quick. It was tough. Hamish Hartlett's effort, I think, in the second quarter maybe, to set up a goal for Schultz, I think, Jay Schultz. It just had everything. It was fast. It was quick. It was powerful. There was lots of goals. I think Port kicked eight or 9 before Richmond kicked their first, from memory, maybe 8. And then the home crowd, the crowd's into it, like 40, 45,000 people were into it. And it was just that first quarter and a half when it was just an obliteration. Obviously, depending what that fan wants to see. Right. They might want to see like a pure dour, they're more of a defensive person. But as far as someone who's just a blank canvas and just goes, look, just show me one game, is that would be the one, because that had, from aesthetically, that had everything that the AFL wants football to be. Yeah. It had everything. Yeah.
So as much as I would want to say the 1989 grand final with Hawthorn and Geelong, probably not a terribly realistic representation of what the game is like in 2023.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Hell of a game to watch. It's like if you want to go back and watch the NFL from the 1950s and 60s, that would be a good game to watch. But it would, it just is.
If you loved tough, like real tough football, or even just sport in general, is what my dad says. That's the proper football back then. There's no of these little free kicks for tapping on the shoulder or a little touch in the back. It was full fist to the back of the head, play on, get up you go.
And I think now knowing what we know, that's good that stuff doesn't happen anymore. But the good, clean, hard tackle is still
good. I think
is great. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It is it's hard because with concussion being such a big issue now, not just in AFL, but NRL, the rugby here, NFL, another football, soccer as well overseas.
Yes.
Is that kind, you see big hits, but you don't at the same time because they're not. There's always that element of, like, especially with the rules now, is that if you elect to bump somebody who's got the ball, got the head over the ball, then you're in line to be suspended. So that puts a lot of players off, and they'll take a step back. But instead of having that full collision, they're going to step back because that physicality, while it still has a place in the game, players have to be very selective with, one, when they do it, and two, how they do it. Because there's been instances where, especially me being my age, is that you're taught from a certain age when the ball's on the ground and if it's 50-50, as you're approaching, to turn your body. So obviously, for the listeners,
go at it sideways.
So if you're bending down, you'll put your right hip and right shoulder as to protect yourself. But now with the rules is that if that happens, if you go to turn your body, but the other player gets there first and they're bending down and then their head hits either your shoulder or obviously your hip bone's a bad spot because it's really hard, and they get hit in the head, then that's where the rules aren't black and white. There's a lot of grey because there's no malice from either player. Right. But it's just a simple fact of the opposing player got there first. Yeah. The first guy is doing what he's taught to do, which is protect himself. But because he hit the other person in the head, then that's when you can get into trouble.
And I think it was against Port Adelaide last year in round 22. That's what happened to Mitch Robinson with Dersma, wasn't it?
I think so, from memory.
Yeah, where because Robinson got himself in position, was kind of hunched down and was stationary, and Dersma ran into him, and Robinson got suspended.
Yeah.
And Patrick Cripps did not.
Yeah, see, that's where it's hard. Like, just for me, I had a lot of arguments with a lot of Brisbane people and a lot of Port Adelaide people too, is that I had no issue with what Robinson did because that obviously he hit him in the head. That's not what you want. You don't want players to get concussed and with everything that's been going on lately. But he was taught. He was being taught that from a young age, and I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, well, they know the rule now. They shouldn't be doing that." And it's like, well, if you've been trained in doing something one way for 20, 30 years, and then all of a sudden, over the course of an off season, 5-6 months, you're asked to completely reevaluate how you attack the football. That's going to take time.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, when you're in game situations, most of the time it's a split second. It's, do I go for it? And then the other thing is if Robinson pulls back and then he allows Dersma to pick up the ball and kick a goal, in the post-game review, what's going to be the first thing that's going to be singled out?
Exactly.
Is going to be Robinson. Why didn't you go for the ball? That's where it's hard.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, getting back to the a little bit before we wrap up here in a few minutes, I put a couple notes out on some social media sites last night, and I said that I'm looking at doing these episodes and what ideas people had, and somebody who I respect their views immensely, I said I'm trying to get my fellow Yanks, hence the name of the podcast, to want to check out the game, and he responded. He said, no offense meant personally, but you live in a country that thinks it's the greatest at everything, including sports. Majority of your brethren wouldn't give the game the time of day for that particular reason. And I don't think that he's wrong, but of course I kind of think about the British that way. I did, which he thought was kind of good. And I said, that whole US, England, and Australia deal, I said, we were able to send Meghan Markle to Britain and Mason Cox to Australia, and Australia made out way better in that deal.
Yeah, definitely.
But do you think that I don't know how much you actually interact with American NFL fans. Probably a significant amount, I would bet.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, does the AFL ever come up in conversation at all?
Not once.
Okay.
And whether it could just be pure ignorance, because obviously the NFL is it's $1 billion industry,
right?
And it's all year round now. So
yes, yeah.
But whether first of all, is there even a want to? Is there even because you could do all the marketing and promotion, and you could put ads on TV and everything like that, but if there's no audience for it, then it's all wasted.
That's true. But
so
there
you go.
And that gets to my point where it's the greatest game you've never heard of is kind of what it is. I said, once you see, if you see it, and you see the little carefully constructed highlight package of some great marks and some great bumps and dribble kicks and things of that nature, and just showing somebody taking the ball down the wing with 4 or 5 dribbles, and taking it in and kicking a goal from 45 meters out, and and they're looking at it going, wait a minute, that looks like a football, and he's bouncing it. It might spark some interest there, but it's if they don't know about it,
well, that's the thing. It's like that's where it's been good. To reverse what you're saying, is that in Australia here, the promotion for the NFL and the thirst for it has skyrocketed in the last 4 or 5 years.
Right.
It has gone through the roof. There's ads on TV for it. It's over, well, I'm not on Facebook that much, but it'd be on Facebook, Instagram, the NFL Australia account on Twitter, always posting stuff. They do watch parties in Melbourne for the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure. And I just seen, might have been yesterday, Scott Hansen from Red Zone. They must have been doing a promotion for Super Bowl tickets, and an Australian couple from Melbourne won Super Bowl tickets. So like that kind of cross-weaving from getting the US to come within the audience here and promote it that way.
Right.
So like you might out of, I don't know how many people live here now, 20 million, 21 million. Just from that, I think the Scott Hansen video was like a minute long. You might get 3,000 or 4,000 people who are like, oh, that would have been all right to go in. I might do that next year. And then they'll look out for NFL games and what's happening. And then that's how the love for it can grow. But listening to what you're saying is that doesn't seem like, seem like there's any want to promote that side of it.
It seems like that the company that's actually showing the games on television has had no desire to do that sort of thing. Even doing, I've talked with other people about this. Even if we were able to do, a half an hour highlight show on like a Wednesday, during at like 10 o'clock in the evening on Fox, on one of the Fox Sports channels, talking about the games that had happened the previous week and maybe previewing one of the upcoming games that they're going to have on. I think if you whet the appetite, it's almost like the Field of Dreams movie, which was ironic. We're talking about that. If you build it, they will come. It's, if you build the interest in it, maybe the people will come to watch the games. Yeah.
Well, see, I had a couple of friends a few years ago. They were, I don't know if they were backpacking or just having a holiday, but there's in the UK, there's actual AFL, but there's football leagues set up over there. So they have UK residents and obviously anybody who's obviously around. I think it's in London, and they actually have leagues where people can go and play. So I'm not sure if they have that.
There's the USAFL has been around for 25 years. There's over 50 teams in the USAFL.
Right. So then that brings back to what you're saying, is that, well, then why don't they promote through that?
Well, they try to, but that's all, that's not they do that like in their local communities where they'll have watch parties for games and things like that. but that's it's, they do train hard and that type of thing, but it's not a professional league. It's all people who are volunteering their time to play, and that's
right. Okay.
So
right.
it's not. It doesn't have the financial backing that maybe it could have to do that sort of thing. But they do try to promote like within their communities. They certainly do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the other line of thinking is that given there's so many it's probably not financially viable, but it could be an avenue that they go down, is that because there's so many ads per NFL game, obviously it's quite lucrative, but then it could even be putting, just like you said, like the highlights package, but instead of it being 30 minutes, just do like a condensed 20 or 30 second ad for it.
Great point.
And whether that's just one per game, maybe there's 16 games throughout a weekend, maybe that's obviously not financially viable, but it could even be out of the 16 games that are on for the weekend over there, it could be 3 of them you'll have, say, 6 ads that go throughout the duration.
I think it'd be great if they could do that. Yeah. And while the season's not necessarily happening at that point in time, it would still be, whetting the appetite, being able to announce and say, because by that point in time, the fixture is going to be out. If it's later in the season, they start advertising, it's going to say, coming on, March the 17th, it's going to, it's going to be Richmond and Carleton in the first weekend of the season. That first, it would be Friday morning here. But it would. I think it would be great I think it's a great idea to try to promote it there. But it's just I think they're missing an opportunity because, like I said, I think if NFL fans love the collision and the speed and the power and the jumping of receivers and that type of thing, I think if they discovered the AFL, I think that many of them, and again, not all. This is not saying that every NFL fan. I'm not naive enough to say that. I'm naive enough to say other things, but not that. But it would be, like I said, even if we just get 1%. I mean, that's 30 million people. Or no, that's 3 million people. I'm sorry, it's 3 million people.
Over there is all of the AFL content, is that free or do you have to pay for it?
Well, it's through, it'd be like on basic cable. So if you had like a regular, TV package, you're going to get FS1, FS2. So you're going to get probably 4 or 5 games each week on those. And then the other 4 would be on what's called this Fox Soccer Plus, which is like an add-on, which would run you like an extra $5 a month. If you're a big soccer fan, they would have the other 5 games on there. Yeah.
Okay, so if you didn't have cable and you just had you're based in Ohio, so if you just had local channels, you can't watch anything. You might be able to get like the Cleveland Browns on the local, the local CBS network, which carries the AFC. Okay. Yeah, you might get that, but you're not getting much of it, much anything else. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's probably another problem, is that people aren't going to want to pay for a game that they don't know anything about. And there's no way, like, as you say, to whet the appetite without paying for it. That's why there's been such a big issue here in Australia for the last, since the rights deal, like 4 or 5 years, is that there's a lot of people that are of the mindset that because it's such a big part of Australian culture here, is that it should be on all free-to-air TV. It should be free for anyone. Anyone should be able to watch it. But the sad reality is that depending on what state you're in, so here in South Australia, only the Adelaide and Port Adelaide games are live. So if you want to watch Sydney and Gold Coast on a Saturday afternoon, that's on Fox. So you only get the Friday night game on free to air, the Saturday night, and depending what the game is, the 2:51 on a Sunday.
Okay.
So even if someone doesn't have, as you would say, cable or Foxtel or anything, they're still getting 3 free games. So they're still getting part of their AFL fix. But whereas in the US is that there's no AFL nothing. Whereas if it was the other way around and on certain channels you would get 3 AFL games that are just on, like you might have someone who's just sitting on the couch on a Saturday afternoon and it's just flicking through the local channels in Ohio, and then bang, Collingwood and Sydney pops up. Oh, what's that? And then it's on there, and then the
FS, the 2 Fox Sports channels are basically if you have like a cable TV package or a satellite TV package, because which is going to run you maybe like $50 a month for that. Those 2 channels are going to be included on there, so those would be part of like your basic. If you have a cable or a satellite dish, those are going to show up on there. So those are in pretty much everybody's house that has any, that doesn't have just like the TV antenna to draw in like the signal over through the airwaves. So if they've got any of those 2 channels are there. So they're going to be getting 4 or 5 games each week on those 2 channels. Yeah,
that's good. Like, at least it's something. At least it's not there's no games on.
Right. Yeah, because that would be, then it's a whole different argument. How do we go about getting the games on television here? At least they're getting them on here. It's just, we just do a very poor job of letting sports fans know that this great game is available at this time.
Yeah. And it's. I think you could correct me if I'm wrong here. But given how global all 3 of your sports are, NFL is literally everywhere. NBA is literally everywhere. I assume the Major League Baseball is everywhere. There's in all 3 of those organizations, there's billions and billions of dollars.
Right.
So they've got the revenue and whatnot to push it out to different countries to get them. Like the NFL, they've gone to Germany, this year to play games. I think they went to London this year.
They went
to Green Bay and
they played like 4 or 5 games in
Europe
this year and 1 in Mexico.
Right, there you go. So
yeah,
even just to get, I mean, that's the thing, is that we're so stuck in our ways here, is that we like the very traditional stuff. So if Gillum McLaughlin was to say, okay, we're going to take Port Adelaide and Brisbane round 1 and we're going to go play it in Baltimore or in Cleveland or something like that, is that would probably be good for you guys over there. But given how some people view it here, is that would turn them off. That means I can't go to that game. Why are they doing it over there? Instead of seeing it as by going, like Port and Gold Coast did that when they played in Shanghai.
Right. Yeah.
3-4 years ago, I think. And that and St Kilda as well. That brought in a lot of money. But that that drew a lot of people offside, because I think I could be wrong here, that was supposed to be a Port home game, maybe. So then some Port supporters are like, well, I can't go to that game. That's in Shanghai. But it's like, if you look at the bigger picture, that's promoting the game. That's what you need to do. So whether that's obviously COVID halted that. So whether that's a step.
Yeah, there was supposed to be a game in Los Angeles, I believe in 2021. GWS and Essendon were supposed to play round 1 here that year. Yeah. So that would be so. I think it's just, I mean, it's so, even if it's just an exhibition game like for preseason, just to get like 3 or 4 teams to go over for a week. Yeah,
because obviously they have the community series and stuff here that goes for, I think, 3 weeks, 2 weeks or something, and they go all around the communities.
2 now.
Yeah. So if the AFL was really, 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 I mean, obviously they were because they went to Shanghai, but take 2 or 3 teams or 4 teams and go over to, for example, like go over to Ohio. Obviously when it's summer here, so it's hot here now, so it's obviously freezing where you are, so that might have something to do with it. But that could be another avenue, is that you have in quote unquote meaningless game.
Yeah.
Put it over somewhere in the US, and then instead of getting all the, like, your David Kings and Jared Waitley's and all that who commentate on radio and stuff like that and TV, get the US media guys to do it. Because then obviously you're not going to get the likes of Joe Buck and Al Michaels and all those kind of guys. But Phil Murphy does a a good job talking on one of the ESPN breakfast shows here with Laurie. So, like, he could be one. I think, like you said, it's just about trying to get it over there.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Right. Exactly.
It's just trying to get it there.
Yeah. So before we go here, I do have to ask, since you are a Port supporter and you're writing about Port, what are you looking for from the club this year?
A better start for one would be nice.
Okay.
0-5 last year. I think it's just the consistency more than anything. I mean, obviously they had a lot of injuries last year, but it's just the consistency. I mean, for the most part, defensively they were reasonably good, but obviously it was good when, well, lack of a better word, it was good when Charlie Dixon went down because Port was so centric. Their forward line was so centric.
Good point.
It was just everything. It was just 65, 70 metres out. Where's Charlie on top of his head and 2 or 3 defenders on him, and he's, no matter how good you are, unless you're Buddy Franklin, you're not going to mark that. So that's where it was good, where we had Todd Marshall stepped up massively. He had a superb year last year. Sam Powell-Pepper popped up with goals. So I think if they can get away, obviously when Dixon's in the forward line, obviously use him, but they can't be narrow focused. And when they're going inside 50, where's Charlie? That's where I think this year they should get a better spread of goals. Orazio Fantasia, hopefully back healthy. He's a game changer when he's going. I think it's just consistency and injuries. The list is there. Whether that's good enough for a grand final, that's probably up for debate. Personally, I have my doubts. I don't see where Port's gotten stronger, whereas Melbourne, they've got Brodie Grundy. The Bulldogs brought in Rory Lobb. Obviously, it's funny how well he's going to go. But they're definitely top 8 if everything goes their way.
Okay, yeah.
But I heard Shannon Sharp saying Undisputed last week with Dak Prescott, and it's a bit with Port as well, is that you hope they play well. So you hope that Charlie Dixon doesn't get injured, and you hope that the forward line functions. And like with Prescott, you hope he doesn't throw 2 picks. But whereas you have guys like the Melbournes who are like the Patrick Mahomes, and then you have Geelong who are like the Bengals, is that you don't have to worry about how they're going to play. You don't have to. I hope Tom Hawkins plays well today. I hope Jeremy Cameron plays well today. That's already there. And I find that's what it's like with Port. I hope we play like in round 1. I hope we play well against Brisbane in round 1. Like I would imagine that Lion supporters aren't going to come to round 1 thinking, I hope our team plays well. They're going to know their team plays well.
Right. That's true. So do you think that Jason Horne-Francis is actually under more pressure now that he's home than he would have been had he stayed in North Melbourne?
I think it's probably – I don't think he is, because when he was drafted, from the outside anyway, it seemed like he was the saviour. He's the number 1 pick. He's the guy to fix the midfield with Jai Simpkin, and obviously Ben Cunnington missed most of the year, but he was the guy that they were going to build the team around. Now, for any person, you could be 26, 27. That's a big load to carry, number 1, let alone you're an 18-year-old who's gone to another state and everything like that.
Yeah.
But now, he's back at Port, he's almost he's not a big fish, but for lack of a better word, he's the big fish in the little pond now. So he's got guys around him. He doesn't have to be the star. So there's not going to be the microscope on him like there was at North Melbourne, because North Melbourne's midfield group last year was essentially Jai Simpkin, and then who else that really jumps off the page at you, really? Not many. So then where does attention then go to? Number 1 pick, what's he doing? Oh, he's only got 10 touches. Oh, well, he's no good. And then that's how the narrative can then snowball. But at least with Port now, there's Travis Boak, there's Ollie Wines, there's Sam Powell-Pepper. Just to name a few, Dan Houston can roll through there now. So even if he goes in and he gets 10 or 12 touches, they might be 10 or 12 really good touches, but because the microscope's not on him, as what it is,
good point.
As well, he's out of what they call the fishbowl of Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
The media scrutiny isn't going to be on him. Obviously, if he plays and he absolutely stinks up the joint, obviously then that's going to be a different conversation. But for the most part, I don't think he's under as much pressure from the outside, at least, as what he was last year.
Okay. Well, where can people find your work? If they want to read your work, where can they locate it?
So I write for cowboyssi.com. That's where all my Cowboy stuff is. I haven't written for the Sanctum for a while. I've just been far too busy. But they're at www.theinnersanctum.com. You can find all their stuff there. They cover every sport, men's, women's, everything. Superb work.
Outstanding. Well, hey, Adam, I appreciate you taking time out of your afternoon to sit down and chat, sir. This was a lot of fun. I hope that something happens here because, and we get a few more people that are interested in the game here, because I don't want to feel like I'm just tilting at windmills here because I'm allergic to horses. So I would not do a very good Don Quixote here. But I appreciate you sitting down and chat with me. And I can't wish your Cowboys good luck this week because of course, and as a Browns fan, so who is winning the Super Bowl?
I find it hard to go past Cincinnati. I really do.
Okay, that's fair.
Every other team has, obviously the Bengals offensive line's a bit iffy, but that hasn't seemed to stop Burrow yet.
Right.
The Chiefs, Mahomes, how good's his ankle going to be?
Good point. Yes.
A lot of his play is mobility once the play breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles could be another one, but their defense was. They only played the Giants last time, so you can't really take that too seriously. But again, it's a playoff win. And then the 49ers with Brock Purdy. Everyone's waiting for him to fall off the wheel. A rookie is not meant to be there. He's not meant to be playing this well. But I just think the Bengals, I think after last year, if Burrow didn't get, I think it was his knee, if he didn't get hurt on that final drive against the Rams, then we could be having a completely different conversation even now. But I think every other team, the 49ers, Eagles, Chiefs, they all have a question mark of such. For me, I think it's the Bengals, I think.
Okay. All right. It's so the southern half of the state of Ohio will be happy, and those of us up here in the north will just be shaking our heads going, the hits just keep on coming. So we'll
see. You've got Deshaun Watson next year, so how that offense looks, he gets another full preseason in.
That's true. I do expect the Browns to. Well, the offense was decent, even with Jacoby Brissett. It's just they couldn't. Their defense scuffled this past year, and they went through. I think they had a half dozen linebackers that went on injured reserves. They were bringing in linebackers, that they just,
off the street.
The general manager's walking down the street and says, "Hey, you look about 6'3" and about 240 pounds. You want to come play this Sunday?" It's kind of how it ended up working out for them. And it's, if they can fill some of those holes, maybe, but again, the AFC North with Baltimore and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Cleveland, if they all play to their potential, could be, the toughest division in the league, that's not to discount the NFC East, who had 3 of their 4 teams make the playoffs. So, well, hey man, have a fantastic weekend. I appreciate you coming on.
No worries. Thank you.
You bet. All right, Adam, thanks so very much for taking time to chat with me there, sir. I appreciate your insight, and I thank you for sitting down to help me figure out how do we go about encouraging the AFL to invest a little bit in promoting the game here, and how do we get other Americans interested in the game as well. So I appreciate you doing that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, remember you can find everything related to my podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. You can get on the mailing list, so when new episodes come out, you'll have them in your inbox in about 45 seconds. If you like the podcast, I do hope you'll go over there and click on the review button and leave a review for the show. You can leave one right on my website, or it'll actually take you out to Apple Podcasts where you can leave one there as well. If you enjoy the show and you want to help keep it up and running, because I'm a one-man outfit here, you can click on that Buy Me a Coffee button in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, you can support it that way. You can click on my Redbubble store page. You can leave me a voicemail there if you want to. If you've got an idea for a guest for the podcast, you can reach out to me there and leave me a message there as well. Now, if you happen to be an American who is new to the AFL and you would want to come on and talk about the game and figure out what's great about it, or maybe reflect upon your first impression of it, I'd love to talk to you. So give me a holler there. And again, if you check my website, if you check the show notes, you're going to find links to a number of different YouTube videos that kind of explain how the game works, as well as some different highlights videos, that type of thing. Now, folks, I do appreciate the kind words that I get traditionally from folks who tune in and tell me they appreciate the show. I thank you for that. Look out for your friends and your family. Please do that. Check up on them. Folks, I do close out each episode the exact same way, and I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Ladies and gentlemen, may your dribble kick never hit the post. I will catch you later. And this has been episode 242 of A Yank on the Footy. Again, don't forget that you can reach me at yank_on on Twitter, or to yankonthefooty@gmail.com. You can find me at a Yank on the Footy podcast over on Facebook, or Yank on the Footy on Instagram. And you can search my name out, Craig Wessels, on both LinkedIn and Facebook there as well if you want to meet up that way. I appreciate you listening. If you are an NFL fan and your curiosity is somewhat piqued, I do hope you'll tune in for the next 5 episodes that I have recorded. I have one that I'm trying to get scheduled, a guest who I have spoken to and has said they want to come on. We just have not nailed the time down yet. This is somebody who was a phenomenal player in the AFL and then went on to play in the NFL for well over a decade. In fact, he was on the all-decade team of the 1990s for the NFL. And I'm hoping to get him on here very, very soon to contribute to this series. And again, folks, if you like the episode, especially if you're an NFL fan right now and you're here in the States and you're curious about the game, I do hope you'll share this episode out with your friends and family and let them know that there's this other game out there that, well, quite frankly, has been around a long time, because the club I support's been around since 1859. So 175 years almost. Getting close to it there. Folks, I appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, goodbye.